Hello everyone, welcome to Pod 19. So it's been almost a week since we did the last one, and there's been so much happening like always. Seems like, yeah, on the AI world, there is so much happening all the time, right?
Absolutely, that's what we've been noticing, and Anthropic has been in the center since January of this year, right?
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's been center stage for all different reasons. There are so many things happening. Not only Anthropic, there are so many, every other company is trying to do something, right? So yeah, we'll discuss all of that. But you've been doing a lot of great stuff, right? I've been kind of observing, and yeah, now that you've been at home, so we'll talk probably about that as well. But for now, let's jump into our pod first, and then we'll talk about our what we have actually been doing, right? So let's,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So, 3 weeks after the US government switched Fable 5 off, it switched back on, and the whole industry seemed to exhale at once. Anthropic didn't just restore Fable 5 and Mythos, it shipped Sonnet 5, Claude Tag, and a brand new research product called Claude Science in the same week. OpenAI answered with a three-tier GPT 5.6 preview and its first custom chip, while quietly weighing whether to push its IPO to 2027. XAI shipped Grok 4.5's private beta, trained on Cursor's own data. The actual product payoff of SpaceX's $60 billion acquisition, and a wave of smaller labs, Sakana, ZAI, ByteDance, Mistral, all shipped real products in the same 2 weeks. One through line. The band didn't slow the race down, it just paused the leader long enough for everyone else to close the gap.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so there is so much activity all across, not only Anthropic, OpenAI, XAI, and Mythos. I mean, yeah, Mistral and everybody, everywhere, all across, wherever you look at it, there is so much activity going on that it's packed house, right?
Absolutely, and the most interesting thing that I've noticed when Mythos was taken down, everyone else was coming out with their models and they were marketing it as Mythos level. Or,
Yeah. So it's become a benchmark in itself, basically. So if you are Fable or Mythos level, or where you are compared to that, that's what. Yeah. So ban kind of pretty much helped, Anthropic get buzz around there. I mean, not that they need it right now. Everybody's talking about Anthropic all across, Claude, Anthropic, and Mythos. But then, yeah, the bans generally help, propagate things more, and that's what happened with Anthropic as well. But now that we are sitting on 2nd of July today, yeah, so basically for the US, it was Fable was actually released on 1st of July, which became 2nd of July for us. So that's where we are.
Absolutely, and we'll dive deeper into Anthropic's story for the past 2 weeks. So yeah, as you rightly said, Fable came back to the public. It was released on July 1st and 2nd July for us, and it is staying here till I believe 7th of July only.
So it's gonna be here. It's just that for people who are accessing it using the monthly paid subscription, that's where it will be available for up until 7th of July. So it was like removed on 12th of July, 12th of June, right?
Yeah.
And then it was slated to be available up until 21st of June, I think, right? It was almost 9 days of availability that was lost due to US government. So that's where I think when it was released today or yesterday for the US, right? So they gave it almost 6 to 7 days for us to play with it. And then once you realize the power of the model, then probably you'll end up paying the per token price or API price. That's what they're hoping, and that's what a lot of people would end up doing. Once you get used to higher level of intelligence for difficult tasks, you end up paying for that.
Yeah.
Because you already tasted blood, right? So that's where, but alongside, yeah, so basically they also released a lot of other things as well, right?
Absolutely, yeah. They came out with their new default model that will be Sonnet 5 from now on. It was Opus 4.8 in Claude Code initially. And Sonnet 5 is pretty impressive as well. It's very nearly as powerful as Opus 4.8 at a much cheaper cost. So it makes sense to use Sonnet 5 for easier tasks, because we weren't using Sonnet at all over the
Yeah,
past
we
couple of months?
all our tasks were going to Opus 4.8 because Sonnet was not updated up from 4.6 at all, right?
Yeah,
So
it's
that's where
been
we are kind of
6 months.
sticking to 4.8, and that made our life a little easier in terms of, you don't have to think about what task has to go there, and then you have to maintain context, and then you have to switch context. So that was a little easier. But now, yeah, so basically, Sonnet is almost like you said, at the level of Opus 4.8. I'm hoping they'll be releasing a newer version of Opus very soon, right? Because they'll have to keep layers there, some distinction there between the two models, because currently it's almost similar. So that's where maybe a lot of people would switch to
Sonnet.
Sonnet.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know. I have not. I'm currently, doing difficult tasks, as in all the task planning and everything and review is being done by Fable, at least from today morning, right? And Opus 4.8 is executing everything. That's what my current work structure is. I'll think about rechanging this work structure after 7th of July, because obviously I'll not be able to use Fable as much as I'm using right now. I'll probably bring in GPT 5.6. Hopefully by that time it'll come back. So that's what the work structure would be like that. Otherwise, I'll stick with Opus rather than switching between Sonnet and Opus. That's what reduces some work for you, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, the thing is with Fable, we know it's extremely token hungry, right? So after 7th of July, it would be very difficult. I don't think majority of the population who are on the max plan, on the most expensive plan of Anthropic, will be paying for Fable.
Right. So when you said token hungry, so basically it's much more costly, right? So it will burn your tokens through a lot more. I mean, it's, when I say token hungry, basically it seems like it's using a lot of tokens, which it is not. Basically, the output tokens are, like I said earlier on the pod, like a couple pods back when I experimented with Fable, the output is very concise, super dense, right? So that's where not lots of token are being emitted out, but it's obviously almost twice the twice the price, but basically it's consuming almost twice the limit on paid subscription, right?
Yeah.
And they've kept a limit of 50%. So that's where basically, as Fable is more expensive, and you should only use it for tasks where you think it's required. So I've lined up 4 or 5 different tasks that I've been trying to do with Opus, and I initially tried with Fable when it was released. So I'll probably try to squeeze them through by 7th of July. That's what my plan is. So I've kind of took a day off today, played with Fable, and that's what my plan is for next 3-4 days. I'll stick around and play with Fable rather than doing anything else.
So people are now rationing their work because of these models.
Postpone everything else, just focus on Fable, get things done with that before it's out of reach, you could say. I mean, basically what's happening is, we are doing a lot of experimentation based tasks, right? These are not mission critical tasks,
right?
So if it becomes really costly, then you would not want to spend your tokens there, right? Because none of it is like currently at least yielding revenue, or it's yielding anything substantial. It's just that we are trying to create something that we thought would be useful, right?
That's right.
So that's where basically you would not want to spend exorbitant amount of money. While you have it, you would want to play and complete it. That's what. And if I realize in next 3, 4, 5 days that it's really good with review, it's really good with basically, let's say, planning, then maybe sporadically I would probably end up using it once in a while. So that's what would happen probably.
But another thing is Sonnet 5, as we said, is very cheap. It's currently it's $2 input and $10 output.
Yeah.
And this is just for 2 months, I believe. After 31st of August, this will be $3 input and $15 output.
Yeah. So basically, Anthropic knows how to lure the customers in, hook them in, and then increase the prices. So everybody pretty much across the board has been increasing price of intelligence. It's probably because of the GPUs shortage and electricity and all of that, right? So there are so many factors into it. But then so Sonnet, hopefully, like you are playing with it, hopefully I'll play with it after Fable is gone, and then maybe I'll have Sonnet and Opus do the work. So
the most interesting thing is in the previous pod we discussed Gemini 3.5 Flash, right? Flash was at the same price as pretty much Sonnet 5.
As Sonnet now.
Right. I mean, that the price difference is insane.
Yeah. So Sonnet is Anthropic's lowest
Yeah,
model,
that's true,
right?
though.
Then you have Opus, now you have Fable as well. So, I mean, they earlier had Haiku as well,
Yeah.
right? I completely forgot about that. I mean, that's not even updated. That's nowhere. I don't know. Maybe they'll release it. Maybe they won't. I kind of, because I always remember they had 3 tiers and now it was Sonnet and Opus and then Fable. Yeah. So that's where, but along with, basically Sonnet, they released Claude Science
That's
on the
right.
same day pretty much, right? So internally it seems like Anthropic has not taken a pause. It's just that the model was paused by the US government for people like outside of Anthropic from using it, but internally Anthropic has been continuing that pace of development and delivery. So that's where Sonnet 5 came, and along with that Anthropic Claude Science came out at the same day, right?
That's right. Yeah, and Claude Science is an interesting tool designed to help researchers. Basically, we had OpenAI recently released a similar product.
Yeah. So OpenAI basically in the month of April had Rosalind, which was April. GPT Rosalind was kind of released, which was for biology, which was a biology model gated to be to the vetted US enterprises only, right? So
That's
that was
right.
there. But now, Anthropic has released Claude Science, which is very similar to Claude Code or Claude Cowork, right? But this is primarily targeted towards the researchers in science side, right? So basically, if you're doing some research on science, you can go back and tell Claude that go out there, do the research for me and give me the results. So that's what's going to happen now. A lot of research is going to be automated, and we'll see a lot more research coming out. So that is going to be absolutely insane. I mean, we know the power of Claude models, we know the power of Opus and Fable. Now that they've opened it, made it easier for science-based research, right? And they've kind of funded at least given grants to 50 companies, like 30K credit grant to 50 researching companies around the scientific research, right? So basically we'll end up seeing a lot of very interesting research. That's what my guess is, because we have been playing with Claude Code and we are doing as much as possible, more and more possible. The satisfaction is pretty much gone. You want to do as much as possible, like 5 or 6 or 10 tasks at the same time. So I think even the scientists should be doing the same thing, and then the research would become a lot faster. Hopefully it will be correct research as well. We'll get to know. But Claude is doing a lot of very interesting work.
Absolutely, yeah. And so initially Mythos was released with Project Glasswing, and then everything was taken back. Even Project Glasswing was shut down. After that, 2 weeks ago, Project Glasswing was reinstated. All the companies got access to Mythos again, and now today we've got access to Fable 5.
Well, absolutely, yeah. So basically, US government, it seems like there are lots of conflicting stories going around, doing rounds on why it was banned. There were a lot of reasons that were given for the ban on these models, right? But lately, like for past week or so, I heard that when US government tried Mythos or Fable, a lot of US government websites were easily hackable by Mythos. It was able to penetrate through a lot of security channels within US government.
Wow.
And that's where they were kind of, they realized the power of the model and they had to quickly push back to Anthropic to, shut it down. So so there have been a lot of reasons. This reason started floating like about a week or so back. So which is where, that's why now they want to test their website against GPT 5.6 and every new model that's going to come through. They're going to test their internal systems against that, and then probably, so that's where they'll take 2 or 3 weeks time to basically find vulnerabilities, fix vulnerabilities, and then release. It seems GPT 5.6 claims that it'll fix it for them as well. So that's what seems like the reason which was floating around why this model was kind of all of a sudden taken away.
That makes sense. Yeah,
absolutely.
And along with that, we've now got Claude Tag, which is basically a teammate inside Slack. So we've got Slack group chats in companies, and Claude will basically just read all the chats and respond if it seems necessary. And you can also tag and ask Claude to do anything.
So absolutely. So Claude basically was present inside Slack. It was present as a personal AI assistant who you can talk to one-to-one, right?
That's right.
But that was, when you're talking to an AI agent one-to-one, there's only so much you can do. You'll have to paste the whole copy paste of chat and then get the context and all that, which is not useful, right? You could do that in your one-to-one chat with Claude as well. So that's where this concept of tagging Claude inside of Slack, just like a teammate, when you are talking to somebody on a channel, that's where Claude would also be at a teammate level, and it can look at all the conversation that has happened. It can do things in there. So that is where it starts to become a lot more useful, right? And when I say useful, now what happens is every message that you're sending on Slack, on the group chat, is going to Anthropic, is going to Claude. It's going through that channel, right? So yeah, I mean, basically now Claude is within your company, within all conversations, and yeah, there's no stopping it, right? I mean, you cannot say that don't read these messages. I mean, you'll probably have to set up a new channel completely where you don't invite Claude. But if somebody does, then again, Claude is able to access it, right? So that's where it's going to be a double-edged sword, I think, right? What all you want to expose and what all you don't want to expose. But this is a really powerful feature, as in, you can ask the Claude to look at the past conversations, create tickets, and get hub or somewhere, right? And then probably execute and write code as well. So all of that can happen from the chat itself, like it used to happen from people to people conversations, right? And there's another mode in Claude Tag where Claude would be like a proactive colleague, right? It'll watch through the conversation. So one is where you tag Claude, it'll respond back, or it'll take charge from there. Yeah. The other one is it's more proactive, so it looks to the conversation. If it thinks what you're saying, it has more context about it, it'll start jumping into the conversation. It'll start telling you that in that meeting this was discussed, and in that meeting that was discussed. Probably you're wrong when you're saying this, right? So all of that can start happening, which is going to be I'm guessing insane, because what we have done at Codefire is we have our own agent, like I said on the last pod, right? And that agent is already looking at all our meetings data. It's looking, so we internally use Rocket Chat, which is open source applications similar to Slack, and our Cody sits in there, which does almost similar things that Anthropic is doing with Claude Tag, right? So Cody sits in there. It knows about all the tickets that we've created. It knows about all the meetings that we are doing. It knows about people's leaves and everything. So we haven't let it become a proactive member. It just responds to whenever we tag it, but it knows a lot more than we do, right? So that's where it'll be very interesting to watch what Claude, and we know Claude is much more powerful. So that's where it will be very interesting for people who are going to use it. Yeah, it could be a double-edged sword for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely. And along with that, distillation training has been in the chat, especially since Elon Musk admitted to it during the trial. So Anthropic is now accusing Alibaba of distillation training, creating 25,000 fake accounts to train their models using Anthropic's top-tier models. So
everybody, basically, so like we discussed on a pod long back, Anthropic basically trained their models on our data, right? We never gave them permission to do that. Now they've stolen our data. Somebody else is stealing from them. Who can define who's right here and who's wrong, right? So that's where basically, like you said, Elon Musk openly admitted. There are a lot of other companies that are openly admitting that everybody is kind of distilling. Even probably, Anthropic internally is distilling down Fable into Sonnet, Fable into Opus, right? So everybody is doing it, and that's what making it cheaper to distill down intelligence into smaller models. But this is one reason that they've been citing for banning this model. But I think with the models in China, the Chinese model, GLM 5.2 and stuff, they've reached a place where they can now probably, do things independent of Western models of Anthropic and stuff. But there's no, harm distilling it down, because everybody's been doing it, and that's the way to do it.
Absolutely. And Anthropic, I remember 1.5 years ago, there was this massive lawsuit that Anthropic was scanning multiple thousands of books, right? They were being charged at $15,000 per page. That would have bankrupt Anthropic. So
500,000, more than 500,000 books they admitted to be using. Maybe it was more, maybe it was less. They lost that lawsuit. So that's where basically everybody's trying to get as much data as possible from wherever it's possible, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it becomes a headline, but then that's how models are being trained. So whether it's DeepSeek, whether it's Moonshot, Minimax, yeah, that's what's happening.
Yeah, and actually, one interesting thing is Anthropic recently surpassed OpenAI in the US enterprise
Wow.
in terms of AI usage and spending.
Wow.
So,
That's absolutely awesome. Yeah, man. So OpenAI kind of was in a huge lead when like a year or almost 6, 7, 8 months back. OpenAI was huge lead, and Anthropic was completely focused on developing models. OpenAI was trying to do compete
Everything.
with Google,
That's
right? So they were trying to do pretty much anything and everything. And now that Anthropic has kind of got very strong models, they are branching out. They are doing Claude Science. They are doing Claude or Cowork and a lot of agents there. And now OpenAI has to come back and focus on their model. So yeah, this is absolutely interesting. It seems like US enterprise spend 34.4% is with Anthropic now, and 32.3% is with OpenAI, right? So that's where they are kind of competing neck to neck, and basically it's going to be everybody's talking more about Anthropic right now. Claude, I mean, although there is some chatter going on around Claude Codex as well, right? But yeah, this is pretty much neck to neck. Two frontier companies, they are almost at the same level. So now that we were talking about OpenAI, right, all the models and everything, so basically now moving on to OpenAI, and they have done a lot of great things. I mean, the biggest thing that came out from OpenAI recently was they've come out with their own chip. They've named it Jalapeno, right? And it's been developed with Broadcom. And it seems like they're at a stage where they are now kind of, internally kind of able to deploy that chip and use it in labs and all, right? So that's a huge thing. This happened within 8 or 9 months, right? From chip design to having a chip where you can try and test things. That's like huge. And they have very interesting plans. By the end of the year, they should be able to prototype it by end of 2026, and then 27, 28, they want to be able to kind of, start putting it in data centers, and 29, first half, it should be, pretty much everywhere. So that's a very aggressive plan, and they seem to be able to execute it. So now OpenAI is becoming, a full tier basically from the chip to a data center to their models across. So that's huge basically, right?
Absolutely. And one thing to note is this Jalapeno chip has been developed for inference, not for training at the moment.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So training basically is happening with NVIDIA chips everywhere, right? And everybody wants to optimize their inference. Every company, basically, whether it's Anthropic, whether it's OpenAI, they're struggling on inference side because there's so much demand. Everybody wants to use their models, right? So that's where you want to first be able to cater to that demand, and that's where you want to have very customized chips that can work at inference type at a very good rate. So it seems like they've optimized the electricity consumption with this chip, and it's going to be a lot more performant as well. So that is going to be very interesting to watch, because everybody, electricity is becoming a bottleneck, right? So if a chip consumes lesser of that will be very interesting. Along with that, they have their own engines, so they'll probably iterate on the design and then make it even more efficient. So that, this is going to open up a lot more for, OpenAI. I don't know whether Anthropic is thinking of designing their chips or not, because they're running their models on TPU with Google, and then they're running it at, XAI and NVIDIA. I'm not sure. I've not seen that news. But then this is a big breakthrough for OpenAI. And if they're able to kind of follow the plan that they've created, then that will be a huge advantage for them.
Absolutely. And as we were discussing earlier, they came out with their flagship model, the GPT 5.6. And there are 3 tiers to this model: Sol, Terra, Luna, Sun, Earth, and Moon. Sol being the best version, Luna being the GPT-4o mini of this GPT 5.6 version.
Yep, I mean they've changed the naming convention. I always remembered them with like GPT 5.5 and 5.5 Mini and the Nano, right? That was the naming convention that they were following. They've changed it now, maybe because Mythos and Fable, so everybody wants to have fancy
Cooler
looking,
models, yeah.
fancy looking names and stuff. So basically, and thankfully US government kind of blocked that as well. So what that does is pits it just against Mythos and Fable. If they had not blocked it, people would say, it's not that capability kind of model, which is why US government did not block it, right? So maybe they would have even requested them to block it for some time, so that we can pit it against Mythos or Fable. That's, I mean, joking aside. So basically, GPT 5.6 was released, was supposed to be released last week. It's almost 4 or 5 days back, right? And that's where US government jumped in. And like I said, they would probably want to ensure that their sites or their applications cannot be hacked into. So that's where they want to ensure that, and it will probably take 2 or 3 weeks before it comes out. But what OpenAI has been saying with 5.6 is it does not only find out vulnerabilities, it helps you fix them. So they are going a step further than Mythos and Fable. It's not just detecting things, it's trying to patch it up and help you patch it up. So that's where probably model will do a lot more than what Mythos is currently doing.
But the interesting thing to note is GPT 5.6 Sol, their flagship, the best model available, is comparatively much cheaper to Fable or Mythos, right?
Yeah, so they've kept it priced almost similar to Opus 4.8, right?
That's right, yeah.
Which is 525 and this is 530 pretty much, right? So that's what, the pricing is very interesting. And I've seen OpenAI trying to, make the models cheaper. They're trying to maximize usage. They want people to switch from Claude or Anthropic to OpenAI because, there's a lot of money going into Anthropic right now and they're feeling the pressure. So, and OpenAI recently raised a lot of money, almost $120 billion.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's where they don't have, crunch for money right now. They want people using their models. They want people using their harnesses. And that's what I think they're trying to propagate. And that's where they're trying to keep the prices of models lower so that, people go there and use it. So, but they've kept very interesting pricing for, Sol, like you said. And then I think the mid tier, which is Terra, is 2.5 and 15, right? Whereas Sonnet is 210 for now and then 2.5 and
3 and 15
3 and 15 on. So basically it's almost at the same level. And then the lowest tier is Luna, which is
$1 and $6
and $6 basically. So basically the model prices have gone up a little bit, but if we compare on terms of actual intelligence that they're delivering, chances are the price would be almost similar or a little lower. So that's what's happening here.
Yeah, absolutely. And for now, of course, the access to GPT 5.6 is limited to government vetted partners. But
So
we're expecting to see GPT 5.6.
And with basically Glasswing, they were able to expose it to 100 certified partners, right? This one is limited to 20 people, 20 companies, right? So that's where there's a higher limitation, lower limitation here. And then basically, government will most likely be able to, roll it out by 10th of July, my guess is. So by the time we do next pod, somewhere around that date, it should already be out there. That's what my guess is. But let's see. And the biggest thing is they've got a much higher context window. It seems like, everybody's been doing 1 million tokens kind of context. Now they've gone to probably 1.5 million tokens. So that would be interesting to watch because, right now, OpenAI, once they start shipping out good models with reliable results, that's where people would probably start switching back from Anthropic to OpenAI or maybe use both of them. That's what, they want.
Absolutely.
Right. So now moving over to basically, OpenAI has some more news in there. They are basically delaying their IPO, right?
We've been discussing this for a very long time. Multiple huge companies were planning their IPO. SpaceX just had their IPO. Anthropic and OpenAI, they were supposed to have their IPO in this year. But OpenAI there are rumors, there are basically this news that OpenAI is planning to they're postponing their IPO to 2027.
Yeah, so they basically did a confidential S1 filing somewhere around 8th of June, right? So that's where the rumors were basically by the end of the year, they would probably have their IPO. And everybody was talking, there's basically a race going on between SpaceX and Anthropic and OpenAI to, get to IPO as soon as possible, grab as much money as possible. But like I said, OpenAI already has $120 billion cash, right?
That's right.
And currently they are struggling a little bit on the, enterprise side, right? They are competing neck to neck with Anthropic. So my guess is, I don't know whether they're going to delay it or not, but they can. They've got sufficient bandwidth there, right? And basically they would want to consolidate on their user base before they go for IPO, because it seems like they want to have a 1 trillion kind of IPO, and their current valuation is somewhere around $850 billion, right, which is slightly below Anthropic, which is $960 billion, right? So if Anthropic does a say 1 trillion kind of IPO sometime soon, then OpenAI will have to reduce their prices, right? So that's where my guess is they would probably want to defer it a little bit, but we don't know right now. But yeah, the rumors are that they are kind of deferring it a little bit.
Absolutely. And I mean, the SpaceX's own IPO popping and then sinking is
that's right.
well.
So APA, like on the last pod we discussed, they released at 135 and they went
Jumped
up to
till
180 or something, right?
Yeah.
So this week it has gone down a little bit. So that's where there has been some cool off on the technology side, but that's okay. I think that's more of a localized change, basically a very weekly change in price of shares, right? But I don't know if that's the cause, but the bigger cause would be the enterprise adoption falling, and probably they have sufficient cash reserves right now to be able to do it. That's what my guess is.
Absolutely. And one interesting thing is, in the previous podcast, we discussed how OpenAI poached two very, very important people. And this time, of course, they've poached someone as well.
So they've not poached, they've hired a India head, basically, who was basically working with Uber India.
Yeah,
right?
he was a very important person.
He was the president of South Asia, and so Prabhjit Singh, right?
Yeah.
So he has been hired as the head of India OpenAI, which is good. So basically, because India is the second
largest market,
right?
for OpenAI. That's right. Yeah.
Yep. So basically, they are doing some hiring. They are looking to consolidate their user base and looking to expand as well. So that's a good thing. Hopefully, we want competition there. We want somebody to do as well as Anthropic is doing, so that Anthropic, that race does not slow down, because if you don't have a competitor, then it will become very easy for you to although it seems like Anthropic has almost reached at a point where they are doing recursive self-improvement. They would probably be doing by the end of this year or mid of next year, right? So that's where OpenAI has to be very focused and has to probably be there before, because we want multiple players to be there. That's where we as consumers win. Otherwise it becomes a monopoly, and that's very difficult to handle.
Absolutely. And well, moving on to the next topic, that was, of course, XAI, Grok. We've been discussing these three companies as the highlight in every podcast for the past 2-3 podcasts, right? Anthropic, OpenAI, and then Grok or XAI. So X or Twitter recently shipped an official MCP server. So basically now you can connect your coding agents or tools with Twitter, and
I don't know what took them so long. They recently kind of, like about a month or month and a half back, they kind of had modified their pricing structure for the API access, right? My basically hunch was they should have done this along with that itself, right? What's a big deal? You have got the APIs, you could probably write up the MCP servers along with that as well. But now they've done it after some time, probably a month and a half kind of gap. But this should be a welcome change for people, because now I can hook up my agents. They can directly go in there on X and they can start pulling out all the latest information, which is very interesting for me to have a real-time information from X, right? Although a lot of people would have already coded their agents to use the API, so I don't know if we'll switch over to MCP or not, because mine is already using API, and their pricing is slightly different for MCP as much as I've seen. I don't know if there's exact change or not. And MCP is primarily read only. On the APIs you could post tweets as well. It's just you cannot do replies on tweets, but you can post tweets and everything. So basically, posting media or attachments, that is much more costly compared to just posting a text-based tweet. So all of that is there. So MCP, yes, it really helps people connect it to their agents. If they've already not done it, they'll probably switch over to MCP, or yeah, that's an interesting welcome change from them.
And along with that, they also came out with something very interesting, and it's called the Grok Voice Agent Builder.
Yeah.
And it's a no code voice agent market basically, and that's very
interesting. So
intriguing, especially for
basically,
you.
yeah, everybody wants to have voice driven agents, right? So they're making it easy and available for people to use their voice agent no code kind of solution, right, to build things on top of that. XCI is pretty much trying to make things easy and cheap for people to use their models, use their infrastructure, right? So basically, I mean, for example, yeah, we've been using OpenAI's models for voice kind of agents. They are pretty expensive. This one is probably at 5 cents.
5 cents per minute, yeah,
5
that's
cents
right.
a minute, which is very cheap. So likely people will start using it. I'm hoping it has Hindi as a language or not. I've not tried or looked deeper into it, but I'll have to probably explore, because we do a lot of voice agents and we'll have to see what languages are supported. That will be really helpful. Yep.
And yeah, along with that, Elon Musk recently tweeted this, that Grok 4.5 is in private beta, and they're using it in SpaceX and Tesla for the testing. And of course, they've now got Cursor. They acquired Cursor for $60 billion. We discussed this in the last pod. So they're also saying that they're trading Grok 4.5 on top of Cursor's own coding database.
Yeah, so I mean, the acquisition would have given them a lot of very basically people who know how to train models.
That's right, yeah.
So that would be there, and plus Cursor recently released a model which was very good at coding, right? So that's where I think, yeah, that knowledge base and that experience from that would really be helpful for these models. But my guess is this model, which is 4.5, is it? Yeah, Grok's 4. So it's a 1.5 trillion parameter model, and this kind of model would probably take at least 3, 4, 5 months to train, right? So initial training would have already been done before the Cursor's acquisition. But now post training or reinforcement learning and all of that, that's where probably they would be helping it. But yeah, 1.5 trillion parameter model would be very interesting to watch, because this is going to be almost similar to Opus kind of model, right?
That's
so
right.
If it's able to give you that kind of intelligence, that will be absolutely a game changer. I suspect that might not be the case, looking at the history and looking at the models that Grok has shipped up until now. But I'm happy to be surprised. I'm looking forward to more competition here. That will be really helpful. And X would definitely wants to capture more and more market. They're keeping the prices really down, and Musk has a lot of they've recently had the IPO. They've got a lot of cash in there. So basically, he should be able to do a lot cheaper rate for us. That will make the model race really interesting, because at one place, on one side, Anthropic and OpenAI are kind of increasing prices. If X comes with a comparable model, maybe slightly lesser capable, but the pricing is attractive, then probably people would start using them as workhorses rather than Sonnet, or rather than Luna, or whatever the name was, right? So that's where, yeah, looking forward to that kind of model coming out. Let's see. I mean, because Elon Musk already has a vision for up until super intelligence, right? He probably Grok 5 is going to be super intelligence or something,
yeah.
right? So that's where, let's see if 4.5 lives up to the expectation. That will be very, very interesting, because he is parallelly training all of those models as well. Like he said, right?
Yeah.
So 10 trillion parameter kind of model is in cooking right now. Yeah. So that's what's interesting. Yep. And then it seems like SpaceX also had a phone kind of rumor, right?
So a couple months back, we discussed that OpenAI was working on a handheld device, right? We haven't heard anything related to that. It's because maybe OpenAI is being distracted by so many things. But recently, a couple of days ago, there was some rumors that SpaceX it was pitched as an AI company during its IPO, of course. And so there were rumors that SpaceX was working on a handheld AI device. It's supposed to be it could be a phone, We're not sure if it's going to be a phone or not. But what we know is it's a handheld device which will be running XAI's own built-in OS.
Yeah, so basically everybody is looking at different basically form factor for AI, right? And this is completely a rumor. I mean, at least only Wall Street Journal has kind of said something like this. Elon Musk has been repeatedly denying this, that we are not working on anything like mobile, and chances are he's not, right? But there is something. I mean, everybody's trying to come out with their hardware as well. Like for example, OpenAI was trying something. So everybody's trying to experiment with the form factor for AI, how to make it available for people, right? So maybe they're experimenting with something, and it's easy for Wall Street Journal or journalists to refer to it as mobile or something, right? Because that's what is most familiar for a small form factor, right?
Handheld device, yeah.
Handheld device. So that's what my guess is. They would probably be doing something. Whether it's going to be phone or not, we don't know. I mean, Elon Musk has denied it completely. He says it's utterly false. But then let's see. I mean, yeah, it's just that, even earlier, like, yeah, some companies were talking about mobile rumor, and that turned out to be false. So I'm not really hopeful here. I'm hoping for the model to be a lot stable and a lot better, rather than these gimmickry, the handheld device and things like that. But
if they do decide to come out with this product, OpenAI hasn't built any physical product ever. Right, Tesla and SpaceX, they've built their own operating system that runs in Teslas. They've built hardware, so they probably would be able to do it best in the first iteration.
So manufacturing has been Elon Musk's forte.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
So if and when he comes out with a device,
a handheld device like this, yeah,
chances are he would manufacture it really well, and it will be really interesting space to watch out for. But for now, I'm a lot more interested in them using their own data centers, them having their own models, rather than renting out the data center and then doing something else. So that's what, I want more competition on the model space rather than any. I mean, unless you have a stable, interesting model, these handheld devices nobody's gonna buy for you.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
So everything else is paraphernalia. It's the center is the model, right? So that's what, I think. But it seems like Cursor Mobile also came out, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So it's a pretty small update. That Claude came out with the update that you can access and control your Claude code sessions on your phone. So Cursor recently came out with a very similar thing. Now you can access your Cursor IDE, your Cursor tool using your phone. So you can be outside, you can be still be working on the same.
So basically, yes. I mean, most of the time, basically on Claude Code, I have to keep pressing those yes and no and yes and no. Mostly yes. I mean, 99% of the time it's always yes, right? So I don't know why they don't, press yes on my behalf, and why do they want me to carry a mobile just to press yes there? But then they want us, and same thing has come on Cursor Mobile. So I mean, I can obviously start some work from there as well. But 90% of the time, I'm just, once you've started the work, then you keep pressing those yes and no's and stuff like that. So hopefully Cursor Mobile is more, got more functionality there. But yeah, so basically now you're going to be working whether you're on your seat or you're outside or you're in the market. You're always be looking at your phone and let me just code this up. While I get back home, it'll probably be done. So that's what's happening now.
I mean, so something very interesting happened. I have got a similar setup with my Claude Code, right? And today I had asked it to do a task, and I was outside. But the problem is, this wasn't a yes no question. It was a question where I had to choose one of the answers, one of the suggestions, and I couldn't choose it from my phone. So I was just so upset that 30 minutes, 40 minutes of my time is going to go wasted because I was outside.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, productivity is like, while you're outside, you're in the gym or you're in the market, I mean, you want your computer to keep coding for you, right? And when it stops even for 10, 15 minutes, you're like, I mean, come on, man, I'm wasting so much time. I should probably get back to home and quickly, read it up and do it. Yeah, I mean, this is a completely different world that we're living in. I mean, could not even have thought about this a year or year and a half back. That will be, I mean, since December 2025, things have changed drastically, and they are exponentially kind of changing right now. So Now moving to our fourth company, right?
Yeah, that would be Google. So there were over the past couple of weeks there was chatter that Sonnet 5 was coming out. Google was coming out with their Gemini 3.5 Pro. We discussed this in the last pod as well, and we knew that My Thoughts of Fable was coming back. So all of this happened except the Gemini 3.5 Pro part. So there are people are saying that it's been delayed and we will get it in July. Of course, it's July now, but we will get it somewhere in the after the first week or first 2 weeks of July. Initially, people were talking about getting Gemini 3.5 Pro in June itself.
Yeah, so on the last pod, I think when we discussed that, Shazir from Gemini team had moved over to OpenAI, right? So that's where we discussed that, chances are Gemini's 3.5 Pro is going to be delayed because he was one of the top minds
in the AI space.
AI space for Gemini, right? Google.
So that's where invented transformers.
So his departure is basically, I don't know whether it's because of that or not, but what we know for a fact is Gemini 3.5 Pro is delayed. We don't know when it's going to ship out. They've not given a deadline up until yet, I'm guessing, right? And they've been kind of delivering smaller models. For example, 3.5 Flash came out, and now
we've got Gemini. We've got two new models actually, and they are Nano Banana 2 Lite. So Nano Banana, of course, was the best image generation model for a very long time. Now we've got a cheaper model, a cheaper, faster image generation model.
Okay.
And along with that, we have also got.
Basically, they've come out with Omni something, right?
Yeah, Omni Flash. It's a video generation model.
Okay, so basically now that OpenAI has kind of moved away from videos and photos, they are focusing themselves on LLMs, right? It seems like that space is kind of opening up because we currently, the best video generation model is probably CDance, right? So that's where I think Google is trying to position itself, or at least, consolidate some visual, basically, image model and video models. So that's interesting space to watch out for. I mean, Nano Banana was a very interesting model. It was superseded by GPT's 2 image edit kind of thing, right? Now I'll go back and experiment and see what the prices are for Nano Banana 2 Lite. If it's good enough and if it's cheap enough, maybe we can, push it into our pipeline, because currently we are using self-hosted models, right? And they are not like top of the line. So maybe if we get some cheap top of the line model, we can probably put that in, our pipeline. So that will be an interesting space to watch out for. And then the video is always interesting. We currently are using Grok for video generation.
That's right.
But then if this one is, so I remember basically earlier when I used the video model from Google, which was called
Veo
3, right? It was pretty expensive. I had, set up a lot of videos from there. But yeah, that was not a cheap model. But let's see how expensive or cheap this one is. Do we have the prices here? Yeah, it seems like video generation or editing is 1 cent, 10 cents per second, right? Which is almost similar to what CDance has, 10 cents per second. So it's not, so they're trying to match up the price with CDance. If the quality is also similar, then probably people will start using them. If not, because CDance was really, really good, right? So if the price, if the quality is comparable, somewhere around that, then it becomes a very interesting thing. You generate an image and then you generate a video out of that, right? So that's a very interesting space to be. So yeah, we'll have to probably play with it, and maybe on the next pod we can come back and say what our experiences were.
Absolutely. And one very interesting thing is, so there, US people in the US can now use Gemini image generation models for free. That's
wow. And why? I mean, wow. So they've now all of a sudden, since that US, Anthropic ban, right? They kind of said only US citizens can access it. Now everybody's kind of coming back and saying, people in the US would have access free and everybody else will have to pay. That's not an interesting thing, but then that's what it is. You cannot do much about that, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Anything else from Google that happened recently, or?
They recently hit over 750 million active users on Gemini. But
wow, so that would probably be because of Google Search and Google Docs and everything, because I'm not sure if that's happening from AI Studio at all. I mean, there would be some component of that, but 750 million is like huge number, right? So my guess is it's probably counting the numbers from Google search and docs, because it's now in Gmail and everywhere, right?
Could be, yeah.
Yeah. Moving on to basically Meta, right? So Meta has been out of news for a while now.
That's right.
It's good that they're making an entry back into our podcast, right? So what is it that Meta is doing that we brought it back?
So a bunch of very interesting things happened with Meta. SpaceX, as we know, is, of course, they're selling compute to these massive AI companies, right? So Meta had invested over $180 billion
Wow.
into their AI infrastructure.
Yeah, Ohio-based facility they had, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, of course, $180 billion, that's massive, right?
Yeah.
So they weren't generating enough revenue. So now they're selling, I mean, you can use their AI infrastructure for...
So they are kind of renting out their AI infrastructure. Wow. So basically, Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, they kind of, had a lot of cash. They bought a lot of hardware, assuming that they'll be able to come up with their models and they'll be able to use it. But then it seems like, both of them are kind of, I mean, what was very interesting with Zuckerberg was, at least he kind of had those Llama models open source. So very credible, very interesting models were coming out in the open source, and but currently all good models in open source are from China, right? So I don't know whether Musk is going to be creating those models anymore or not. They had news or something, right? But they're not very good models. If they would be producing models, or if they would be putting it on open source, we don't know for sure. But right now they have, at least they're trying to recoup their investment. They're trying to rent out their hardware so that people can use it. And Anthropic and OpenAI, they all need access to hardware. They all need access to hardware for their inference models. So that's where it's good that they're thinking about this, and they should probably So $182 billion is huge, and they'll probably be able to recoup some of the cost.
Absolutely. And along with that, if you've opened WhatsApp in the past 2 days, which I'm sure you have, you would have met with the message that you can now choose your username or import it from Instagram or Facebook. So that's another major news. WhatsApp came out with their
WhatsApp is trying to do something interesting there, and they've recently hired
Kunal Shah, the founder of Cred.
He's become the global CEO for WhatsApp, right? Which is very interesting. So let's see what he does there, and what I mean, he has very good experience of fintech in India. He knows how to get people onto the platform and make them pay money, right? So most likely that's what he's going to do with WhatsApp as well. WhatsApp has been struggling in that stage, on that place. I mean, they have the UPI, but Google and everybody else is kind of racing ahead. So that's where hopefully Kunal Shah would be able to breathe life into it, and WhatsApp would be able to make some money as well.
Of course, we know that Telegram uses a username-based metric to find people. And there was a lot of backlash when WhatsApp came out with this update as well, especially from the Indian government.
So Indian government has kind of asked them why they're making these changes, and because there are a lot of people kind of misusing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people are choosing usernames of celebrities and corporations. There are people who are named as Shah Rukh Khan and Modi. So
India is a very different kind of problem. The moment you open up gates, they rush into it and they try to squat on things like I mean, this is like. But anyways, so Indian government has kind of asked Meta to explain what exactly they're doing with usernames, why they're getting into usernames, because, for example, now Meta is doing UPI, right? And so Meta would be doing payment exchange, and now they want to enable usernames instead of phone number. So how would they verify? What would the KYC process and stuff? So that is going to, because every other, probably Telegram does not have UPI, right? So this is the first messenger which already has UPI built into it. Now they're pivoting from phone number, which is linked with the user, and you can do all the KYC with the phone number. to a username based kind of thing. So that's where Indian government wants to know more as to what they're doing and why they are doing it.
But the thing is, you still need a phone number to sign up to WhatsApp. So
which is there, but then you can change your phone number and people would not know, right? So that's where it becomes it's no longer transparent that which phone number are you transferring money to, right? So that's what I think that's what Indian ministry wants to probably probe into, because if it was not for payment, then you can do whatever names and nobody would care, right? So because it's related to the payments and stuff, that's what makes it interesting.
That's right. And we just discussed that Kunal Shah, the founder of Cred, became the global CEO for WhatsApp. Along with that, Meta also invested $900 million at a $4.5 billion valuation into Cred. So,
absolutely. So Kunal Shah was founder of Cred, and he was doing a lot of good work here. I mean, on the fintech side, and he recently became the global CEO for WhatsApp, right? So he is going to lead all of this now, and it seems like, I mean, so we were just discussing about WhatsApp, and now Kunal Shah would probably, I mean, I've been watching some videos, I've been looking around why and how, and so Kunal Shah has very interesting experience in fintech space, and he would most likely be making, I mean, so WhatsApp had UPI integration, but nobody's using it. Google and everybody else is, Paytm and everybody else is, leading so much in the space. So we do all the chat on WhatsApp, and when we have to do payments, we switch over to Google Pay or something else, right?
Yeah.
So that's what my guess is, or the guess on the social media is that Kunal Shah is going to make, us do the payment on the WhatsApp platform itself. But the moment he joined, there's been a backlash on username and stuff. So he's got his hands full. He'll hopefully be dealing with a lot of things now. And so basically, I mean, having an Indian as WhatsApp global CEO is a very interesting, very, very interesting stuff, right? Moving on from Meta to Sakana AI, right?
Yeah, this is the first time we're hearing anything from Japan, a frontier lab. So
I mean, whether it's a frontier lab or not, but they are doing some AI related work. So basically, while Mythos was away, while it was blocked by the US government, Sakana AI came out with, a proposition that, our AI is much better than Mythos and Fable.
Yes.
Right? And then people were like, wow, Japan has done something really interesting. And then, so initial news was that only, and everybody was wowed, and they had the benchmark results and everything. Then people dig deeper into it, and then they figure out they've got a routing model, which is almost 7-8 billion parameter kind of model, which is routing the requests to different models. It could be Opus, it could be Gemini, it could be GPT, it could be anything else, right? So we know that a lot of harnesses are there, a lot of, solutions are there that use multiple models, and they act as routers, and they are able to perform a lot better than just one model, right? So but it's interesting, like you rightly said, it's interesting to watch that even Japan is now figuring into AI space. We know that Mistral from France has been doing good stuff, and India is Servum from India. So a lot of other players are coming into the marketplace, which is very interesting. And they've got multiple models, or what was exactly the?
So they have just come out with Sakana Fugu. That's their orchestrator. They've got very small models, the 7-8 billion parameter models. They're using those internally. I mean, basically, Sakana Fugu, their orchestrator, is the main product by this frontier lab. That's what.
Right. So the benchmarks actually said that it's at a Mythos level or Fable level or more than that. But then when people started using it, they kind of figured that it's almost at GLM 5.2 kind of level. So chances are they're using those models internally, and so it's a lot slower, it's a lot pricier. So that's what but
you can in fact choose to bring on some of the models as well. What models you want to choose?
Okay, so it's a basically intelligent router. It'll figure out which model, what kind of tasks should I pass on, right?
That's right.
So which is interesting, but this is not a breakthrough basically, because lots of companies are doing it, and they're doing it reasonably well. But it's good to watch that at least Japan is now figuring into AI arena, and hopefully we'll get to see a lot of things coming out from there.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I didn't like was it was launched in late June, right? And I saw multiple tweets, multiple posts that were saying that because Sakana is a very new company, right?
Mm-hmm.
For all the users that sign up in June, they were gonna give them 1 month free access. So I quickly went over to Sakana's website. Firstly, it was so difficult to find the actual platform where I could use the models, and then they asked me for $100. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. So it was not available for
No,
free at
that
all?
was not true. Yeah.
Okay. So that was some marketing gimmickry that was happening.
I mean, yeah, a model better than Mythos is also is a marketing gimmick when they don't even have a model.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. So, I mean, technically, they do have a model which is really small,
It's an
8 or
8
9,
billion
or
parameter
maybe they
model,
kind of
right?
fine-tuned a model to do that. Who knows? But then, yeah, at least they were trying to market something.
They made it to our podcast where we
Yeah.
discussed the big
Absolutely.
corporations. So
Absolutely. And then there were a couple of other companies that released models. For example, we were talking about Google's video model. Now, ByteDance also came out with
that's right. Yeah.
their model. So basically, Dance 2.5 fixes video generation's biggest limitation. Basically, native 30-second video clips can be generated. So earlier, people would do 6-second, 10-second kind of thing. Now they're going into a 30-second kind of which is huge actually, because people were generating 6-second or 10-second kind of clips, and then they would stitch it together. At times stitching would be very apparent. So you might have seen on YouTube there are lots of videos where there's constant switching of scenes from one to the other. That's because the video models are generating 6-second kind of video. Now you'll get to see almost 30-second kind of videos being generated by Dance, which is what is required by the industry, and that's what they've done. So that will be a very interesting space to watch out for. But apart from that, Mistral also came out with something, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Mistral came out with something very interesting as well. They've named it OCR4. So what it does is it basically it's a document extraction with bounding boxes. So we've got
Basically, structured documents, it's able to kind of scan
exactly,
and
yes.
put out that structure as well. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. So structured documents where we've got different lines, different markings for signatures or anything else. It can extract those, understand where the boundaries are.
So basically, it's so my guess is it would also be able to give you some confidence score about how accurate the
exactly
result
right.
is, and then probably how many languages is it supporting, or
So
is it
the most interesting thing is it supports 170 languages. That is
Wow.
incredibly impressive for a OCR.
so that will be a very interesting space for enterprise basically
Workflows,
document
yes,
workflows,
yes.
right? Because ultimately, if it's multilingual and it's able to kind of scan the structure itself, that's where you could probably convert a document into a spreadsheet, or you could probably convert into a Word document immediately. So I guess you were working on something similar. That's where you probably came across this one, right?
Absolutely. I was working on a project that required scanning of numbers in specific boxes. And yeah, that is when I came across this, and I'll be trying this very soon. I'm very excited for this. I was using Easy OCR. It's basically a library. It's not a model, and it sucked. I gave it 100 numbers. It messed up every single one of those.
Wow, that's an achievement. If you get 100 and you get 0 out of that, that's like huge, right?
So yeah, I mean, Opus was of course able to correctly identify 96 numbers, and I wrote those numbers with my left hand. So
Wow.
that was incredibly.
I know your right handwriting with your left one. It's you'd only need AI to recognize that. Otherwise, I cannot even read your right hand. Left hand is even better actually. So okay, so you can try Mistral. Most likely it'll decipher it as a French character, and then it'll figure out something else rather than math or English. But let's see. Cool. So I think we've pretty much covered all that we wanted to cover here, right?
Yes, yes.
Awesome. And now, do you want to talk about the things that you're working on?
Absolutely. So, of course, we've been discussing this. I have been working on a video editing tool, and over the past 2-3 days, I was extremely focused on creating B-rolls and creating animated videos using our tool. So ultimately, I was able to create something what I thought was impressive, because it took just one single prompt, and that is it. Nothing from me, and we can put up the video. I created a trailer for our video editing software, and we can put up a 1-minute trailer up here. And yeah, I mean, I was impressed with what I was able to
Every creator is drowning in raw footage. The best moments are buried in hours you don't have. Meet Cosmora. It watches your footage and finds the moments worth keeping. It writes your cutaways for you, composes them, picture-in-picture, split-screen podcast, reframes everything vertical automatically, cut the filler just by editing the transcript, and masters your audio broadcast ready. One pipeline, raw footage in, ready to post out. Cosmora, AI video edited for you.
I created an MCP server for the video editing tool, and I gave access to Claude Code.
Okay.
And yeah, I just Claude Code already knew about my project because I was working in that directory, and that's it. I just gave it access to Playwright. It went on the website. It took screenshots of the video I was already editing.
So this was pretty much all autonomous, basically, you're saying.
It took me one prompt: create me a trailer for Cosmora. That's it.
Wow. So it went in there, it figured out everything for your project, and then it was able to do a voiceover.
Yeah,
it was able to
I
create
gave access to a text-to-speech model, but that's it.
And then it was able to basically do that music as well on its
Yeah,
own?
absolutely. Yeah, that was, I asked it to create an Apple-like trailer when they released the new iPhones, and it was able to, if you had noticed, there was a ticking sound as well, and there was background music as well. So yeah, I was really
that's
impressed.
super cool. Basically, so this is the product that you're working on, and then this is the promo for that product which you
was
created with your
using
agent.
the product as well. Yeah.
Awesome. That's absolutely. I mean, this was like pretty cool. I mean, yeah. So we could definitely.
Yeah, I'm
start
really
doing
proud
this.
of this one. Along with that, what have you been working on?
I have been working on a lot of things. Nothing in particular that I would like to mention right now because everything is kind of incremental. So, like on last pod, I talked about the AI agents and everything. So I'm kind of giving it kind of superpowers to observe itself, to improve itself, to talk to me about what improvements I can make in that application. That's the feature that I'm kind of iterating on. It's not a easy one, but then that is going to be really useful if it's able to achieve that self-monitor and self-improvement. And basically, yeah, so that's what I've been kind of struggling a little bit with, because when it goes back to, it goes back into the loop and stuff. But yeah, so that's the space. And then along with that, so very interesting concept I've been trying to implement is muscle memory into the agent. So basically, memory is kind of a solved problem where you talk to the agent and it recalls whenever required, right? But then when, for example, your tool, this video tool, right? Now you asked your AI agent to go back and create those videos from the URL or something, right? So what I call muscle memory is basically your interaction with the agent with that particular tool, right? So that kind of memory is only required when you're using that tool. For example, you said, go to this URL, right? And you always use that URL, then that should be in that kind of context memory, right? Like in our body, when we are playing tennis or when we are playing cricket, we remember those things at that point of time. We don't have to, use it all the time.
Yes.
So that's what I'm currently, so those are some very interesting things that I'm working on currently, but these are not solved yet. So I'm not able to kind of brag at all. But yeah, so muscle memory has been on my mind for quite some time. I've started working on it like this weekend itself. It's not gone anywhere yet, but hopefully we'll make some progress and then I'll probably use it.
That's very cool. I also want to mention one thing. There was no video generation model used to create that video. It was mainly my screenshots or our image generation, a locally hosted image generation model was used.
Right,
but along with that, no video generation model to create that entire flawless, smooth animated
Absolutely,
transition.
this was like pretty smooth, and the voiceover was impactful, right? So did you choose that voice, or did
No, Claude decided to.
Yeah, so basically, because this is the same voice, so what happened was when I was doing Scooby videos, right? I had given my AI agent to create those videos, right? So one fine morning, the same voice was used, and then because I had asked it to use a woman's voice, then basically one morning when I woke up and I was listening to Scooby News, Scooby Bites, this voice came in, and I was like, "What happened? How come the voice changed?" And then I went back to ask my agent, what did you do? So it said, I needed an authoritative voice for the, for the news. The lady's voice was not very authoritative, and we had discussed we need to make some improvements. I have to experiment and things. So that's where I was experimenting with the voice. So this voice is really impactful, and this is, the moment I saw this video, I kind of, related it back, and that's why I wanted to ask you whether you selected it or the agent selected it, because
The agent did.
yeah, so yeah, that's what
I just gave a simple prompt. Already, the Claude Code already knew the context of what I was building. So I just wrote, build me a trailer for Cosmora, use Playwright to for the screenshots of the product. That's it.
Yep. That's absolutely awesome. Yeah, it's actually, you just have to imagine what all you can do with AI, and all of that happens. This is a very interesting example of that. Yeah, I mean, hands-free creation of videos like this is absolutely awesome. Cool. So, anything else you want to cover on this one?
No, I think we've mostly covered everything. This is a pretty long episode.
Yeah, this one is a little longer, a little on the longer side, but there were so many things happening, and things are, increasing. More and more things are happening. Hopefully by the next time we do the pod, GPT 5.6 would already be here, and we would have experimented with that. But then, yeah, it was a long one, but hopefully it was interesting for people to watch through. But let's see, right?
Yes.
Alrighty, everybody, thank you so much for watching, if you've watched it up until this point. And yeah, we'll come back on the next one.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thanks. Bye. बहुत लंबा हो गया भाई।